At the relationship level, you have to put everything on the table. We need to talk about our expectations, about how do we treat money. When we make this money, how do we spend it? Or how do we save? What are your money goals? But when you give somebody money, you're actually offering them a portion of your life. We must look at it from that perspective. So you can profess, you can talk about love, but you see, the element of giving must be in love to be regarded as true love. People invest in relationships that they think they can draw value from.
Yeah.
You hardly would want to bother yourself about, going the extra mile for someone that there is no value in that relationship. So the point is that where a relationship is valuable, necessarily you must see the element of money in that relationship.
Good morning again. Welcome to another interesting episode of the VitalSpace Podcast. And if you've been following us, you know that what we try to do is use this as a platform and a medium to get society working better. As you've stated in previous podcasts, our lives and everything around us revolves around relationships. And the quality of relationships we'll have would affect the quality of things we produce. So today we'll be looking at the role of money in relationships. The role of money in relationship is money, the oil, is finances, the oil for our relationships and all of that. So we're looking at the role of finances in relationships, and I have with me here a brother and a friend, and I know he would do great justice to our conversation. Thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you.
And you know how we do it here. We know that all our guests are big in their own rights and have the multiple of portfolios and roles they play, but in here they're just themselves and the value that they bring. So you're welcome once again, sir. So the role of finances in relationships. So let me start from there. What role does finance play in our relationship?
Okay, thank you so much, my friend Augustine, for having me here. It's a great privilege to be here to share ideas and share knowledge. Like we all know, finance is very important. It's critical to life itself. Not just relationships now. Everyone needs finance, like Bible says, money answers all things. So money is important. Ability to be able to afford your needs, when you are okay, when you have money, you have options, there are so many things you can achieve with money. So as it applies to every area of life, so it applies to relationships. At every strata of relationship, whether between a father and a son, or with children, between a husband and a wife, even amongst friends, there are, at every level of relationship, there are obligations, there are duties that are only accomplished with money. You may profess to love someone, you may profess that, you mean so much to me, but one of the ways to express love, even society recognizes it, that one of the ways to express that you love someone is to be able to give them a part of you, which in this case is money. Because if you really look at it, you spend your days, your time working, basically, because time is life. So it can be said that you actually spend your life. But when you give somebody money, you're actually offering them a portion of your life. We must look at it from that perspective, So you can profess, you can talk about love, but you see, the element of giving must be in love to be regarded as true love. You can't love without giving. Even God couldn't love us without giving to us. So in that aspect, in every strata of it, look at it. A father has children, he has obligations to them. He has to feed them, he has to clothe them, he has to house them. That's going to cost money. A husband has obligations to his family, to his wife, whether at the level of courtship, at the level of friendship, you have to fulfill those obligations. I mean, even amongst friends, if it's your birthday and I regard myself, this relationship is valuable to me, I must also, beyond praying for you, I must be able to take a part of me to actually get something and say, the giving of gifts is an expression of the fact that I don't just love you saying it, but in practical terms, I demonstrate that love by giving to you. So money is important at every strata of society. We can hardly get anything accomplished without funds. You agree with me? No matter what the vision God has given to you, no matter, you are going to need people. And sometimes to sustain relationships, there must be the element of finance in it. To sustain long-term, to sustain relationship, amongst every other thing that is required, there must be the element of finances. So money is quite important to relationships at every level.
Wow. So even if there's so many things to pick, I've just been listening. I'm trying to see which one to pick. But thank God we have the privilege to go back, go it over again and pick the wisdom that are there. Something that is key, that you said, that we look at it from the fact that when we give money, we are giving a part of ourselves, because, and that's time, because we use the time to generate money, our skills and all that, and when we give, it's the time we've spent in generating that money.
Yeah.
So it's a part of ourselves, a part of our that we are given. So people need to, and I think that people need to, what I'm bringing is that people need to understand that to you it may be small. You know how people say this small thing.
Yeah.
So to you it may be small, but it's someone's life.
Yeah.
So there's an element of gratitude that should come in the receiving of gifts and the receiving of whatever someone. There's an element of that, and I think maybe that's where we want to go, with people having a proper understanding of money and the value that it represents.
Okay. Let me just give you an example. If someone works, maybe earns, let's say 70,000 a week, and then you have a need, and the guy gives you 10,000, what it means is that the guy woke up from his house, went to work for one day because of you. When you look at it from that perspective, I mean, it just brings a fresh meaning to the entire thing. People need to understand that nobody owes you anything. I've been here in this area. I've lived here for 22 years now. One of the things that always amazes me, whether as a pastor or as just an ordinary person, is the level of entitlement that people have. And I used to let people understand that, see, nobody owes you anything. I would be able to give to you. Want to give, just because of who I am. But really, people invest in relationships that they think they can draw value from.
Yeah.
You hardly would want to bother yourself about, going the extra mile for someone that there is no value in that relationship. So the point is that where a relationship is valuable, necessarily you must see the element of money in that relationship. And I used to tell people in our church, for example, that look, there are people that are rich, or people see them to be rich, and so these people keep giving. Some people make the mistake that these people don't need something.
Yeah.
And I used to tell them that, look, for example, when is that person's birthday, think of what can I do to reciprocate this, because you see, if you don't get to that point where you can say, I should be able to reciprocate.
Yeah.
It may not be at the same level, but I've come to realize that, you see, people that are rich don't actually, they value very small gifts.
Yes.
They may not talk,
because it's the intent.
It's the intent that's what's important. They may not actually complain that you are not giving to them because they understand you may not have. But you see, once in a while, it's important to step out of our comfort zones to actually to give to people that have been nice to us, people that have invested in us, people that have been good to us. That is the thing, because again, we must understand that money communicates value.
Wow.
The amount of money I'm willing to risk and spend for you it's out of the perceived value that I have for our relationship. Do you understand what I'm saying? There are people I know today that look, maybe it's their birthday or they are getting married. If I have the funds, I can say, okay, if I have it, I can say, I want to put 1 million, I want to give this guy 1 million because, because of the perceived value that I see in that relation. There are some people you just look at and say, maybe 20,000 is good enough, and all of that. So at every level, we must realize the importance of, giving to people and, just being responsible. I mean, you cannot divulge responsibility from your ability to be able to make money. Is very important. There are certain responsibilities you may not be able to take unless you have the means.
Yeah.
The reason why people go into all kinds of crime and all of that is most of the time is because people want to project a picture of who they are not. They want to do things to reflect who they are not. And that is not it. You must be able to, within the blessings God has given to you, within your means and within what you have, you must always think about not just yourself, but the other person. And that's critical.
It falls like that. We're talking about the role of money in relationships, and which we'll maybe get to the whole romantic thing, the whole family thing. But I'm just trying to establish some things because I think that our understanding and our value, our personal values around money, which was what I'm trying to do, it's what we bring, all our values, whether about money or about anything, about time management, about hygiene, it's what we bring into the relationships we get into.
Exactly.
So for now, I want us to just create that value, people's understanding and value of money. We've talked about gratitude, we've talked about giving, but because it's the value, when we understand money, that is that understanding and that thing that we bring into is it so I want to ask you, so you've mentioned something, is it the fact that in this locality and some other places, is it the fact that money or finances and all the knowledge around it, it's not taught?
Okay.
Or not properly taught, or people have a wrong notion about this. So probably at first, let's just talk about the values that
the truth is that we are all a product of two things, basically, our nature and our nurture. You cannot do so much about nature, because these are things that you were born with. But as per nurture, everything you know, everything you do today is a product of the way you have been raised, the way you have been taught, certain things you picked, along as you grew up and all of that. So a lot of us bring these things. We grew up with them. The value, our value system, we grew up with them. Our thoughts, our mindset about, for example, about money. Some people believe, for example, that you have to make money at all costs, for example. So you see in their behavior, in the things they do, that idea reflects, But I've come to realize that money in itself is not the goal. Money in itself is useless because, it is about what money can do, not about money itself. Because if it's about money, if you are hungry, you're not going to cut money and start eating it. You use money to buy food. So money is not an end in itself. Money is a means to an end. We must realize that basic thing, So a lot of the things... in the average family, nobody sits you down to teach you about money. So we have a lot of people that are not financially literate. They may be PhD holders, but So we come into our relationship with our baggages of, our value system, what we know about money, how we treat money. And so it becomes a problem at the relationship level because, if someone grew up not, maybe the person grew up under circumstances of need, he could barely have enough to eat and all of that. It comes with that mentality. The other person maybe was raised in an affluent family. And this is the reason why, if you notice, rich families don't want their children to marry from poor families. You may not like it, but it's for a reason, because their value system about wealth are different. So that's why when that kind of situation happen, you may not understand the reason why these people say you can't marry from that family. But if you look at it very well, it is simply because Their idea about wealth and money are different. And if care is not taken, it will cause a problem.
Yeah.
So we come with our baggages, we come with everything that we thought we knew about money, and then in of course, as you relate, you begin to see those red flags and things like that, So ability to be able to now, for example, have that understanding. And this is why at the relationship level, you have to put everything on the table. We need to talk about our expectations, about how do we treat money. When we make this money, how do we spend it? Or how do we save? What are your money goals? Maybe as a couple, or as a family, or even people that are in courtship, you need to have these conversations around how are we going to treat money. Okay, in situations where maybe, okay, only the husband works or only the guy works, the lady does not work, you need to have that conversation, because the woman is going to have needs.
Yeah.
She may not be working. That's what happened with me. I've been married for 18 years, but in the earlier days of our marriage, my wife didn't work. I was working, But we had conversations around, okay, what's going to happen when I have a need? Do we have a common purse, or do you keep your purse, or I keep mine? If we're going to do projects, how do we walk around? How do we treat in-laws? Do we send money to them, or do you understand what I'm trying to say? So we must discuss our expectations when it comes to money. The reason why you will have frictions in relationships that pertain to money, it is when expectations are not expressed.
So we've known about, like you said, the importance of this money thing and finances in the relationship, and like you said, if expectations are not expressed, frictions happen.
Yeah.
It becomes a ground for friction. It becomes so. When is it too early?
Okay.
To have conversations around money, especially because you see young persons get married, or not even married. It's just young persons are getting to know each other. So when is it early?
Okay.
For couple or even people intending, when that financial thing?
I would say there is no time that can be considered to be too early, because even at ordinary platonic friendship level, you probably would have picked up a few signs. You notice certain things about the person if you are observant enough, because we are all a product of our experiences and our upbringings. Maybe in the family there is a way they used to treat money. So you would have noticed certain things that, okay, yeah, this person is tight-fisted. He doesn't like spending money. He doesn't like giving. When he has to spend money, he complains. So you begin to pick up those signs, and then that should also put you on notice to know the kind of person this person is. So you need to ask questions as per, what is your value system when it comes to money? What's your impression about saving? What's your impression about investment? What are the key areas that, what are the things you will not do with your money? What are the things you think money should be used for? You should have that conversation, even at the most basic friendship level. Not to talk of when you are now beginning to talk about, the romantic feelings now have to come, and then it's becoming serious. So you must have these conversations. Conversations as per, okay, when we get married, what's going to happen? Maybe you are working and working. How do we take care of the family needs? If we're going to be putting resources together, how are we going to do that? Are we going to have a joint account? Are you going to have your own account? I will have my own account. These conversations are necessary, because, like I said, if you don't do that, you may be in for a root shock. There are people that have told me before that, I ended that relationship because I noticed that, he doesn't like giving. I just noticed that he's a selfish person, or he's a greedy person. So, he was not open-handed enough. That was why I ended the relationship. So unless you have this conversation, you don't assume. You should ask questions, because, again, if you understand their background, you probably will understand why they do what they do. So that the need to have that conversation can never be whether. I was giving you the example of myself.
Yeah.
When I left my banking job, I knew there were expectations, because, when I was working in the bank, there were things I did without even thinking. Sometimes my children will ask for certain things, I will give it to them. But when I knew that, okay, I wouldn't have that cash flow that I had, so I sat them down. That was after, of course, I've had the conversation with my wife. I sat them and I said, look, this is the reality. I don't work in the bank anymore. So I
Yeah.
don't have that measure of, I don't have that cash flow that I used to have.
Yeah.
So now, the reason why I did that was because I needed to tame their expectations. There are times, they will tell me, maybe, for example, my daughter will say, Daddy, maybe I take her somewhere or go to the supermarket and they will say, Daddy, buy me this. But even if she was going to say it, she would think twice. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? It's important. What parents say, I don't want my children to know what I'm passing through. I don't understand people think like that. Because, you see, children may not talk, but they know they may not be able to put it in words. But they are very observant and they know, they may have an idea, but you need to be able to tell them exactly what's going on. If your ability, for example, your ability to make money is hampered, you may not necessarily tell them everything, but tell them enough to let them know the realities on ground. Because if you don't do that, then when the expectations come, there are another problem with, or maybe it may be with your spouse or even with your parents.
Yeah.
Maybe monthly before you used to send your father 100,000 and for some reason you are not able to again. You should let them know you may not tell them everything, but at least let them know what your financial position is. There's no point hiding it away because the man will be expecting the 100,000. And if he doesn't see it 1 month, he doesn't see second month, he's going to, of course, he'll be concerned. He may want to ask questions. And this is where sometimes misunderstanding begin to happen with the family. So it's important that we have conversations around money. Not just about, I love you, I'll be with you for the, no. The real issues. Seriously, because as a pastor, I say a lot of things. When these expectations are not expressed, you can't blame. And the truth is this, there is nobody that doesn't like security. So you cannot begrudge a woman for wanting financial security for her future. A woman might look at you and say, let it be that it was her decision.
Yeah.
To say she wants to go ahead.
Yes.
You were forthright with the truth. You didn't hide anything about your financial position. So let it be that she decided, in spite of knowing how to, she decided because she had trust and faith in you, she decided to go ahead. Not for you to hide certain critical information about your finance.
Or pretend in a particular, or like you said, show up in a particular way.
Exactly.
And build the expectation.
Exactly. For example, every time you're going to visit your fiancé, you go borrow a car. Or you go borrow clothes. Just to create the impression. The lady begins to believe that, my husband to be has a car, only to get married and find out that the car didn't belong to you. That in itself is a problem. It's a serious one.
And I've seen and heard stories where even the guys don't even have a house. So what he was even posing as
his house
is not even. It's not like, okay, I'm posing with this house, and this is my house. So when you now go to this one, like he does not even have a house. He's a squatter.
Wow. But that's wicked. Because there's no other way to describe it. It's wicked. Because you see, and it is people that are self-conceited that behave like that. Because if you have the interest of the other person at heart, you won't do that. If someone loves you, if you tell them, I mean, we've had, okay, for example, the story of Bishop David Oyedepo. I mean, if you read it or you heard it, you will know. So the woman knew what she was getting into. There was something like, he didn't tell me. She knew what was getting into, but there was something she saw in the man and say, okay, I'm going to dive in with you. There was something she saw, so I don't know why people do that, but I mean, it's rather unfortunate. So that conversation is important, expressing your expectations and being frank enough because, for example, I've had people ask me that, like some people believe the husband should take care of 100% of the need of his wife or in the family because the man is the provider. Some people say, so what should we do in the cases where, okay, the husband is working and the wife is working and the husband insists that the wife should bring something. I mean, maybe our money to the table, and well, I say my mind is that, well, yeah, the husband should provide because that is the way it is.
Yeah.
That's the right order. But I know that things happen.
Yes.
Seasons of life may come. There are times things may nosedive for the man or whatever. So it's all about understanding. It's all about understanding. But we shouldn't dodge or hide away from having these discussions or this conversation. That's what's important. There was a case where this guy died. He had a fixed deposit with us in the bank. I think at that time was about close to 10 or 11 million. And then he died. Let me shock you. The family was looking for money to fund his burial. They didn't know he had money in the bank. So when I got to know, the account officer just one day mentioned it to me, So I said, what? I had to send for the man's wife to come to the office to tell her that, look, your husband had fixed deposit with us before he passed on. And the woman was shocked. Like, you mean? So I had to help them, tell them what to do, go to the probate registry, do this, so that they could have access to that fund. That was because I was a conscientious person.
Yeah.
There are other people that would rather take that money and run away. You won't even know that. So it's important that, at the level of the family, we should be able to, if I'm going to go into a transaction with someone, and maybe the amount is considerable, I want to maybe lend money to somebody, a considerable amount of money, I think that my wife should know. The reason is this. It's going to impact the family's finances. I want to make a substantial investment. My wife should know, because the meaning is that it will have impact on our cash flow as a family. And of course, she's going to ask questions. I don't know why men get angry when their wife asks them, what did you do with your salary? Or the husband asks the wife, what happened to your salary? That's a legitimate question to ask. And you are under obligation to explain what you do with your money, because at the level of the family, you understand that your income is not for you alone. It's for the entire family, because people are depending on you. So if you are not able to meet those needs, you should think about, how does this negatively impact my family? What it means is that you may not be able to pay your children's school fees. It impacts the children. You may not be able to send money to your parents. It impacts your parents. You may not even be able to contribute money to your church. you can see how it impacts,
a lot of
your circle.
Yeah.
So having that conversation, discussing it is very critical. If I'm going to lend somebody a considerable amount of money, my wife should know, because things happen. People can die. I can die. What happens? My wife will not know that somebody is owing the family money, and then the family is suffering. So there's no point, I don't understand the reason why some men tend to keep away information from their wives. Is because maybe they perceive that, my wife is, what do they call it? Prodigal.
Yeah.
It's a spendthrift. Once you know there's money, she wants to finish it. But there are ways to go around these things. You can actually educate her, or maybe it's the other way. You can actually systematically educate them, or him or her, on the need to actually. And the other issue is, for example, savings culture in the family. You must be able to build a savings culture in the family. It's not everything you earn that you spend. The reason why a lot of people are in a financial mess is because they are spending far higher than what they are earning, which is actually foolishness. And when you do that, you are going to tend towards poverty. It's only a matter of time. With time, you're going to tend towards poverty. The only way that wealth can be built, it is when, Bible says, as long as the earth remains, it says, seed time and harvest shall not cease. The only time, or the only way you can better your financial position, is that you must have a plan. You must be able, even if you don't have any other source of income, from what you are currently earning, you must see part of your earning as a seed, part of your earning as bread. You cannot eat your seed. You eat your bread. Your bread is the one you spend, take care of family, take care of bread. The seed is the one you reinvest, or you put in something, or you plant somewhere that will produce something for you. And if you do that on a consistent basis, you will see that after a while, you begin to have financial surplus. And that is the beginning of financial freedom.
Wow. So, considering the economy, and all of that, because we know that uncertain things happen. People can, for no fault of theirs, just get to hit a financial snag or hit something in life. How would couple manage financial stress? How should they how does this financial stress impact? So let's look at how financial stress impacts a relationship,
Yeah.
and what are ways to either mitigate or to resolve it.
Okay, we don't even need to look too far. What we are going through in the country right now, it's just unfortunate. A lot of people are having struggles. Even those that are, that you can say maybe at the what's it called, middle income belt. They are not finding it funny. So the thing is, these things happen. There are seasons in life. There are times surplus will come. There are also times that things may be scarce. It is wisdom to understand that is going to happen. So one of the things that I think you do is, like I said, you need to put something aside for the rainy day. You need to have a way to save on a consistent basis. Consistency is the key in anything. Consistent basis. If it is 5,000 that you save consistently every month, you will have 60,000 in 12 months.
Yeah.
How did I get into this financial situation? If you can answer those questions, you are halfway done in finding your way out of that quagmire. Then look at things you can do, low hanging fruits that can actually help you. Are there assets you can convert to cash? Look around your house. Are there assets you can sell? Are there things you can scale down on? For example, in my family, talking about, for example, DSTV, cable subscription, I had to step down. In fact, for like 3 months before, just about 2 weeks ago, I had not paid DSTV subscription because I just looked at it that, okay, I had a subscription, then I also had Extra View, and I was paying 42,000 every month. And I just thought that, I actually can do without this thing. I have a smart TV. I can watch movies. So what's the essence? Okay, football. I can watch football on YouTube. I may not watch the football live, but I can watch
the highlights.
So I had to talk some sense to myself. So what I did for the past month, I didn't pay the subscription. I diverted that money somewhere else. Until DSTV called me about 2 weeks ago. And they said, okay, what's happening? You're not paying your subscription. And then I said, bros, you know what is happening in the country? Then he said, okay, you can actually pay half subscription. We're giving you a promo to pay half subscription. And I said, hey, are you serious? He said, yes. I said, okay, if you pay today, you would have. So I paid half subscription, and then I was able to have it for a while. And now it's even expired now, so I'm asking myself, do I still want to? So you have to look at what are the things you can scale down.
Yeah.
If you had your children in schools that you were paying so much, and you look at your financial position, you think you can't continue, have that conversation with the children. I told you when I left my bank job, my daughter was going to a particular school that was costing me so much because I could afford it.
Yeah.
And when I look at my situation, I had to call her. I say, look, young girl, I know you like that school, you have made friends, but we are going to change your school. She asked me, Daddy, why? And I said, this other school too is good, you will love it and all that. So I had to tell her. Reluctantly, she accepted. We changed the school. And because that previous school was my friend too, I had to also explain to them that, look, this is my situation, I have to do this. So I did that. So it's not about, if I do it now, people will not think, people will start asking questions, because around here, the school your child goes to sometimes become a status symbol, and you must realize that, look, you are not in competition with anybody. At the end of the day, if you are not doing well, you have yourself to blame. So I had to take that decision. Scale down. Control costs. So look at areas where you can cut costs. If you maybe like now, I used to drive my car out every day for the car driver, but with the current level or price of petroleum product, I have to talk some sense to myself. So I look at it. Okay, there are days I can actually park the car, because I found that I was spending almost 60,000 on fueling the car every week, and I looked at it and said, look, this is not sustainable for me. So there are days I will park my car. I'll use keke, I'll use keke, go, come back. I'm okay, So if there are distances I could also, maybe I can walk to instead of driving, I do that. generator in the house. I looked at it and said, okay, no, I can't have this level of, I have one big generator that is a gobbler. It consumes so much fuel. So I told my wife, this gen, we only use it when we want to pump water. So that's what we do. And luckily for me, I was able to afford a small inverter.
Yeah.
So, so we don't have to burn fuel. We use the inverter maybe from around 6 to around 10 p.m. Okay, you want to watch TV? Okay, maybe once the inverter goes off,
Everybody goes to bed.
because sometimes my people will complain, Daddy, let's buy fuel. Once in a while, I buy the fuel. But I've seen the difference that has made in my finances. So I've just looked at areas where I can plug, and then again I thought to myself, let me see if I can create other means of income for myself, so that while I have this one coming, let me see if I can invest here so that I can have something coming from here at this after a while. And that's what I did. So again, if you find yourself in a financial position that is not good, you must trust God to help you. While you are trusting God to help you too, God has given you wisdom. So sit down and think. Because one of the things I found that is lacking critically in our in these days is that people actually don't think. And whether we like it or not, we are products of our thoughts. But if you sit down and you think, you will actually be able to see solutions. You'll be able to map your way out of the financial mess that you find yourself. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So before we wrap this up, two thoughts playing in my mind, so I'll just probably take them in quick successions. Yes, a particular partner may have made wrong choices that probably would have landed them in that mess. What's the place of mercy, a place of forgiveness, a place of play out in managing financial mistake, managing financial stress, or the impact of bad investments?
Okay, well, I think that marriage, relationships, usually they are journeys of forgiveness. There is no relationship where you won't have to forgive. If that somebody offends you or you offend somebody, I mean, these are just normal part of all of us. People make mistakes. I know that some mistakes can be very the outcome of certain mistakes can be very grueling, in terms of what the family will have to pay for that mistake. And this is the reason why we must give adequate thought to our actions. We must think critically as a man, especially if you have a family. Before you make any financial decision or you take any decision at all, think about the possible risks. And if this risk crystallize, how will it affect my family? The truth is, a lot of men don't give thought to these things. A lot of men are impulsive decision makers. And you can't do that. Maybe you could get away with it as a young man, okay? But when you have a family that depends on you, you can't have the freedom of doing that, because you understand that it's not just your life that will be impacted. You are going to impact the life of the family that is depending on you. However, where mistakes have been made, there is the need for the person that made the mistake to realize that he made a mistake. That's key. One of the reasons why I left my banking job, a lot of people don't know, was that I did a transaction with a customer, and it resulted in, it was a mess, so I had to leave, I had to resign, but somehow I knew that decision to have that transaction with that customer had that risk. Unfortunately, I didn't discuss with my wife, because I knew if I had perhaps discussed this, she would have told me no. Okay, so I did that and all of that. But after that happened, I had to tell my wife, this is what happened. This is the outcome. This is the decision. I'm sorry for this, why I put us in this situation. But I can tell you that by God's grace, I'm going to work so that we get out of this situation. So there is the need for it. You see, I tell people that you cannot force somebody to forgive. Forgiveness is consequent upon repentance. There are people, there are men do a lot of funny things. A man will do something that is funny, and then he feels, at the end of the day, I'm the man, I can do anything I like. You don't realize that you just did something bad, you hurt somebody, you put somebody in a bad situation. You should apologize and say, I'm sorry for this, I'm sorry for... Then it now behoves on the woman to now forgive and then move on from there. So There is the need for forgiveness, but forgiveness is predicated on repentance. It is when you have shown remorse, then obligation shifts to the woman to forgive or to the partner to forgive, and then we can then find our way out of that problem. You cannot re-enroll somebody into forgiving you when you have not acknowledged that you have done wrong. Even God forgives us only when we accept his gift. He forgives us only when we realize that what we did was wrong and we come back to him in repentance. So that's the way I see it. But we must just move on. The deed is done. We must count the cost, and then we must move on from there. I am a very pragmatic person. Like I tell my friends, look, I don't sit around problems. When there are problems are to be solved. I don't how do I put it? I don't sit down and start thinking about what could have been. The deed is done. We have to solve the problem. So we have to think about, how do we solve the problem? We don't sit around the problem and start sulking, and start, God, why did I get there? Oh, the thing is done. How do we solve it? That's what the conversation should now be around. That's about that.
Oh, so the thing would be, how do we solve it? And if you've listened, I know that you've had not just nuggets, but enough wisdom has been shared in solving whatever parts of whatever level in your financial journey you have. There have been enough wisdom passed out, there have been valuable knowledge passed out to help you move from point A to point B. It's one thing to hear, it's another thing to do. It's another thing to do. And so we encourage you to not just fill yourself with knowledge, but be a doer. It's in the doing that we're blessed. Take one of the thing and put to practice, and you see your life move forward. Thank you very much for it. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. We hope to probably have you again and have another conversation going
Anytime
forward.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you so very much. And I hope that we've at least shared some values. I just want to encourage all of us to let's be encouraged to invest in relationships. It's not just there are certain relationships God will bring your way. If you are strategic enough and you're a spiritual person, you will be able to perceive. So, but beyond that, let us learn to invest in people. Let's invest in relationship at every strata, whether in church, at work, at play, in school. Let's invest in relationships, because I believe that relationship is vital to us achieving our God-given vision at whatever level. Thank you again. God bless you.
Thank you. See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.